Doctalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to Doctalk. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Dr. Travis O'Quinn. He's a meat scientist and he specializes in steaks and finding that perfect steak. He's a meat scientist at Kansas State University's Department of Animal Sciences and Industry. We're going to talk about what goes into the USDA quality grade. It's going to be a good show and you're going to learn a lot. Thanks for joining us.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Join us for the 4th annual Meeting Demand Sale at Gardner Angus Ranch, Monday, May 13th at 10 a.m. Up for sale are 173 20-month-olds and 250 bred commercial cows and heifers, including the complete dispersal of longtime Gardner customer YOLO Ranch. Catalog available at GardnerAngus.com. Register for online bidding at liveauction.tv. At Gardner Angus Ranch, you aren't just buying a breed, you are buying a brand backed by 4 generations of disciplined seed stock production. See you May 13th at the ranch.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to Doctalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Travis O'Quinn. And Dr. O'Quinn is a meat scientist here at the Department of Animal Science and Industry at Kansas State University. Tell me a little bit about your background.
No problem. My background is I went to Texas Tech for a bachelor's and master's degree, and then I went to Colorado State for a PhD. My whole background's around meat quality, specifically eating quality. So I do a lot of research in terms of determining what makes a great steak. What can we do to make a steak more tender, juicy, and flavorful? That's what I do most of my time with researching.
Well, then this show is going to be in his wheelhouse, because what I really wanted to sit down and talk about, whether you're a producer or whether you're a consumer, the USDA quality grade is important. And whether it's about premiums or about eating experience or cooking opportunities, it's something we focus on. So talk to me a little about what is the USDA quality grade.
Yeah, no problem. The quality grading system in the United States was the original first beef grading system dating back to the 1920s. The idea then was to segregate cattle into groups that were more similar in types and kind. Specifically, the quality grading system does a really good job of separating carcasses into areas of expected eating quality. So when we pay for quality grade as premiums, we are paying for increased eating quality. And so that's the purpose of the quality grade, to be able to predict eating quality to some level.
Yeah, and so what goes into that? I mean, like we split that carcass between the 12th and 13th rib, and
absolutely. So there's actually 2 major parts to the USDA quality grading system. The first is maturity. We know as animals get older, the beef gets to be tougher in its very nature. There's some changes that actually go along with the collagen in the meat that actually make it more tough and harder to break down. Therefore, meat from old cows, for instance, is always a lot tougher than meat from a young heifer that we may get out of a feedlot in western Kansas.
Gotcha.
And so we have the ability to look at that animal's skeleton and do a pretty good job of predicting how old that animal was cartilage as an animal ages turns to bone in a very predictable pattern. And so as that occurs, we can look at how much cartilage is turned to bone and relatively get a good idea of how old that animal is. And so we're able to take that information and determine whether or not that animal is essentially too old to be more tender, or if it's young enough to qualify for our premium grades.
So regardless of the animal's actual age, as the skeletal maturity increases, we know it's not going to be as tender.
That's exactly right. As that animal ages in general, actually most of the aging done at packing plants today is done based on dentition. So we know very predictably how old an animal is based on when its second set of incisors break the gum line. Once that happens, those animals are over 30 months of age, and we know that there's some problems when we start getting into tenderness and juiciness and flavor, specifically tenderness, when those animals reach that advanced age.
And we know there's some things that we can't do with export of those animals. So it throws them into another category as well.
That's exactly right. If we have animals that are over 30 months of age, we have very tight regulations around those as it relates to exports due to risk associated with BSE or mad cow disease, as it relates to our exporting countries and partners not wanting to take meat from those animals.
Perfect. We're going to take a break. Folks, when we come back, we'll do more with Dr. O'Quinn, talking about what goes into that USDA quality grade.
Join us for the 4th Annual Meeting Demand Sale at Gardner Angus Ranch, Monday, May 13th at 10 a.m. Up for sale are 173 20-month-olds and 250 bred commercial cows and heifers, including the complete dispersal of longtime Gardner customer YOLO Ranch. Catalog available at GardnerAngus.com. Register for online bidding at liveauction.tv. At Gardner Angus Ranch, you aren't just buying a breed, you are buying a brand backed by 4 generations of disciplined seed stock production. See you May 13th at the ranch.
When it comes to stopping hornflies, cattlemen love their VetGun. Today they love it even more because VetGun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin vet caps from AgriLabs.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doctalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Travis O'Quinn, who's a meat scientist here at Kansas State University Department of Animal Sciences and Industry. And we're talking about quality grade. And Travis, you spend your time studying eating quality and getting the best steak we possibly can. We talked about the maturity grade, and once they're too mature, they're kicked out. Now, let's say we have one that's in the right age group. Now, how do we determine quality grade?
The next thing we would look at after you determine the maturity of that animal is that we can look at the marbling content. And marbling, what we mean is we're talking about the little flecks of fat that are within the muscle. So we're not talking about the fat that's on the outside of a steak. We're actually talking about the little pieces of fat that are within the steak that actually, when you cook it, get consumed by the consumer.
Okay. And so the more flecks over that surface area, the higher the grade.
Absolutely. The more flecks we get in there, the higher the quality grade will be. So for us, if it's a young animal, no flecks and pretty much all lean would be qualified as a USDA standard. And then as we move up, the grade increases. So a little bit of marbling would be a USDA select, a little bit more marbling would be USDA choice, and then in the USDA grading system, the grade with the most amount of marbling is actually USDA prime.
Okay. Well, when you know, so as we move up, what would be the difference in the fat content of those types of steaks?
Absolutely. Select steaks have somewhere around 3 to 3.5% fat. The choice grade's awfully broad. We go anywhere from about 4 to up to in the upwards of 8.5 to 9% fat, and then anything with 9.5 or greater percent fat ends up being in the USDA prime grade.
Gotcha. And so then that's how some, depending on the grid and different things, that's how producers can be paid.
Absolutely. Producers are paid very strictly on quality grade depending on the grid. Depending on the grid you're on, some producers get paid a lot more for quality grade. Other grids that are more cutability based, quality grade's maybe not as important. But from a U.S. beef standpoint, quality grade is incredibly important, because when we talk about selling meat out of the back of a packing plant, everything gets sold by grade. And so sometimes, depending on the time of the year, that choice select spread is awfully large, and so we have a lot more product that's a lot more higher valued in choice versus select. Today, in today's world, the difference between choice and premium choice, the upper 2/3 of the choice grade, so the carcass that would qualify for certified Angus beef or some of our other boxed beef programs, sometimes that's the biggest driver on the grids, the difference between low choice and average choice and higher. And then certainly today, in today's industry, the prime choice spread has been large, extremely large over the past couple years, helping drive more producers wanting to get more cattle into the prime grade.
Yeah, and we've seen that, that everybody's saying, well, now the choice select spread's going to go away because so many cattle grade choice.
Absolutely.
That now the choice prime is what's going to drive the beef eating experience or some of the grade.
That's absolutely the truth. I mean, we've seen this quality grade shift immensely over the last several years. Now we have less than 20% of cattle grading USDA Select. 10 years ago, that would have been close to half. So the beef industry as a whole is moving in the right direction as it relates to quality grade. We're doing a really good job of creating a better eating experience for consumers by having our cattle feeders put those cattle and have more marbling deposited within those carcasses throughout time.
Perfect. Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about what it predicts. You're watching Doctalk. Thanks for joining us. Folks, thanks for joining me on today's Cattle First Minute, as sponsored by Beringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. You know, when we start to think about breeding season and turning bulls out, the one thing I can't emphasize enough is to get a breeding soundness exam done on your bulls before turnout. And some of the things that can happen during the winter, whether it's frostbite in certain areas of the body, or there's things that can happen that will cause a bull to become infertile, are things that you need to make sure. The other thing that's very important on a breeding soundness exam is we have to make sure that we don't have lameness or issues with the feet, because no wheels, no calves. So making sure that we have a sound bull structurally, making sure that we have one that's fertile and one that can produce enough sperm and enough volume with enough motility with no defects in the sperm is vitally important to making sure every year before you turn out to ensure that you get a calf crop, at least from the bull's point of view.
My name is Dr. Cooper Williams, and I am a sports medicine specialist. I'm ICELP certified and certified within the Sports Medicine College as well. I just got finished teaching an ultrasound wet lab with a group here at ENSO Discoveries in Kansas. And it was a group of students that really had a lot of enthusiasm for learning new anatomy and really elucidating some of the structures that they're not comfortable with in their day-to-day practice. It's something that I really have a passion for doing, and I really love the scanning and basically how anatomy and clinical anatomy relates to how we approach treatment of horses, especially in regard to regenerative medicine. And ENSO Discoveries has specialized in both PRP and in stem cell research, and a lot of these regenerative techniques are used now to treat a variety of different structures in horses. And my job is to teach people the anatomy, the abnormal anatomy when we have damage, and basically how to ultrasound and how to be able to guide our treatments into these abnormal injuries, these structures that we need to be precise in how we approach treatment. And using these regenerative techniques, you can't just put them in wherever you want to. You have to direct these treatments exactly where an injury is so that they're going to work properly. And so that's what we were working on today in a variety of areas of the body: the neck, the back, the pelvic region, the distal limb, and reviewing how we look at these anatomical structures and determine if they're abnormal, and then how to go about treating these structures. And we actually did processing today and used some of these regenerative techniques today to help out a few of the patients that were part of the wet lab. We cannot be islands unto ourselves. And it's important for all of us to network. We all sort of learn little tricks and techniques. So I definitely would like to thank Enzo for the opportunity to be able to be here and interact with these students and to relay the information that I've gleaned over the years. And this is not the first time that I've been able to do this with Enzo. They've been very, very warm hosts and having us come out. And they obviously like to be able to put out this information and teach other veterinarians. And so their passion is my passion, and it's just being able to work together like this is fantastic.
You spent countless hours building a strong operation. But when it comes to trichomoniasis, the odds are stacked against you. It takes just one infected bull to take down the whole herd. Damage could include open cows, lost pregnancies, and lost profits. The good news is with TrichGuard, a herd doesn't have to feel like a house of cards.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Travis O'Quinn. We're at Kansas State University. I'm over in the College of Veterinary Medicine. Dr. Travis is over in meat science here in the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry. Great to have you on the show. Thank you, because this is something that I've been wanting to do a show on quality grade, because as we discussed, quality grade is getting so much higher, and the reason is because of the eatability or the consumer's experience. So talk to me about what marbling is supposed to predict.
Absolutely. So marbling does a very good job at predicting eating quality. And so we've done a lot of research here at Kansas State that's really looked at that and tried to put some numbers with that as it relates to quality grade. And so if we're talking about strip loin steaks, New York strips, Kansas City strips, if we have a piece of beef that's a USDA select steak, there's actually about a 1 in 4 chance that the consumer, when they eat that steak, is going to have an unsatisfactory eating experience. As we move up the grades, that percentage decreases pretty substantially. We talk about choice grades, that becomes a lot less than that, somewhere around 18 to 20%. If we're in the upper 2/3 of choice, so in our premium choices, average and high choice, that number drops down to around 12. And then if we are in USDA prime, we have less than a 10% chance that a consumer is going to actually tell us that that steak was unacceptable.
So 1 in 10 versus 1 in 4.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. So is there, what about, does marbling predict tenderness?
Probably a question that many meat scientists would debate. I would say yes, marbling does predict tenderness. It does have a tendency to do what we call the halo effect, meaning that as we have a steak that's more tender and that's more juicy and more flavorful, consumers have a tendency to tell us that it's more tender as well. So whether or not the steak's actually more tender or whether or not the consumer just thinks it's more tender, then net result's the same. They have a better eating quality in the steak.
Gotcha. And I'm going to make the assumption that when you say 1 in 4 with select versus 1 in 10 with prime, really what's happening is the variability of the eating experience within those grades, right?
Yeah, there's some strong evidence that you have more marbling and it does decrease the variation around the eating quality. The truth of the matter is that when you actually eat the select steak and there's just less marbling in there to lubricate your mouth, to be able to actually add the extra juices and flavors in your mouth, the overall eating experience is just lower. There is a greater amount of variation on that, but the truth of the matter is it's just not enough fat content in the steak for consumers to be happy.
and so if you're inviting the boss over, go ahead and spend a little extra money and get that prime steak. Huh?
That's exactly right. If you were going down to a low-end steakhouse here in Manhattan, you might be okay with a 1 in 4 opportunity for that steak to fail to meet your eating experience. But if you're going to a fine white tablecloth restaurant, I bet you don't have a 1 in 4 chance that you're willing to take when you pay that much money for a steak.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about when you go in to buy your steak, what are some of the things you should be looking for? We've got an expert here, Dr. Travis O'Quinn. It's going to be great.
Join us for the 4th Annual Meeting Demand Sale at Gardner Angus Ranch, Monday, May 13th at 10 a.m. Up for sale are 173 20-month-olds and 250 bred commercial cows and heifers, including the complete dispersal of longtime Gardner customer YOLO Ranch. Catalog available at GardnerAngus.com. Register for online bidding at liveauction.tv. At Gardner Angus Ranch, you aren't just buying a breed, you are buying a brand backed by 4 generations of disciplined seed stock production. See you May 13th at the ranch.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Travis O'Quinn. We're talking about USDA quality grades, and obviously it all relates into that eating experience. So if you're a consumer walking in the grocery store and you're going to pick out a steak, tonight's the night, we're going to have steaks. What are some of the things you would be
looking for?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that probably one of the biggest things that consumers can do when they go in to a retail case and look at meat products is they know up front what type of steak that they're looking for. So if they want a T-bone, or they want a sirloin steak, or if they want a ribeye, that's the biggest step one. There's big differences in terms of eating quality amongst all the different steaks in the retail case. Once they make the decision on what type of steak they're looking for, they look at the meat case and they pick the cuts with the greatest amount of marbling. So the amount of those flecks of fat that we were talking about within the cut, throughout the cut, those will typically deliver a higher level of eating satisfaction.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So if you're going to go in and you're going to pick out a steak, and you're trying to get the best eating experience, tell me what your favorite. This doesn't mean it has to be the best, okay? Because I know all the debates we can get into. But tell me what your favorite steak is and cut, and what you're going to buy.
Absolutely. My personal favorite is I like USDA Prime ribeye. That to me, the ribeye delivers a high level of flavor. My wife, for instance, loves tenderloin steaks. Now, tenderloins, if we do a lot of research, will show that, hey, they don't have the most flavor, they don't have the most juice, but they're certainly the most tender. So for my wife, the tenderness of that tenderloin's more valuable than the flavor of the ribeye. I'll tell any consumer this, too, in terms of advice. With beef steaks in a retail setting, you tend to get what you pay for. So if you are paying higher values for cuts, whether that be different grades within the same cut. If I'm going to pick ribeyes and I buy the ones that are priced per pound a little bit more expensive because they're from some kind of premium product, I will get rewarded for that in terms of eating quality. Same thing if I'm looking at cross cuts. There's a reason that sirloin steaks are sold at cheaper values than New York strips and ribeyes.
Gotcha. Well, I'm with you. I'd pick ribeye going away every time. But I think that one of the beauties about the beef industry and about going to that retail counter is the variety.
Absolutely.
You're not going to see the cookie cutter, and I'm not going to pick on other proteins, but with beef you have choices and different price points.
Absolutely.
So everybody gets to enjoy it.
Absolutely. And so there's different cuts in there depending on your cooking method. If I'm going to cook a roast all day at home, then I'm not picking a ribeye steak. I'm picking some kind of chuck roast or roast from the round, because it'll deliver that same high level of eating satisfaction, really just based on the cooking method differences.
Cool. Well, thanks for being with us today.
No problem.
Thanks for sharing your information. Folks, Dr. Travis O'Quinn. If you have meat science questions, steak questions, this is the guy to get a hold of here at Kansas State University and beyond. Thanks for watching Doc Talk. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. If you want to know more about what we do on the show, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson, here with Dr. Travis O'Quinn, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance. From AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
Doctalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.